What's up? Welcome to the Outdoors according to Curtis. How are you doing? Today we're talking about five um misconceptions about fishing and fish in general. Number 5. Fish hold on. Not fish, but number 5, you will not catch a fish unless you're very quiet. A lot of people told me this when I was a kid. If I was fishing like just for anything with like a bobber and some worms, my cousins or older people, my grandpa, maybe my father, maybe would be like, shh, be quiet. If you're not really quiet, you're not going to catch anything. Nothing's going to bite unless you're quiet. And for a while, I believed him. I was like, that's pretty sound. Well, as I got older, I started to realize I can sing. I remember there was a point in time, and sometimes I still do this, where I would bring a speaker and play my own music when I was fishing and still catch fish. And it never occurred to me till later why this is possible, and I googled this and I started researching this. Fish don't exactly hear. Now, of course, you're probably going to say stuff like, oh, well, dolphins use echolocation. Well, guess what? Dolphins are not fish. Dolphins would be mammals. And so, fish don't exactly hear. Now, they do have a bunch of weird, like, sensory and stuff, like crankbaits. They work because of vibrations, and the fish can feel the vibrations, and of course, fish can, they feel the temperature change and stuff. But anyway, that brings us into number 4. Number 4, fish will not bite in cold temperatures. This one, I believed for a long time. I was always like, well, if it's really cold outside, fish won't bite. But it never occurred to me, wait a second, isn't there ice fishing? Studies show that no matter what the temperature, a fish will bite. Unless the water is a block of ice, fish will bite because the fish is still alive down there. Now, make it super cold, the bass are going to be really slow. You're going to have to work something really slow to catch a fish, but it's still possible. Another thing that just kind of goes to prove this is that the Bassmaster Classic in 2012 was held in February 24th, I think. On February 24th. It may have been like the 15th, but it was in February, and it was really cold, apparently. But, obviously they still caught lots of bass. And so, just to prove points. Now, most of your biologists and fish experts will say that water below 45 degrees is going to be pretty hard to catch fish in, even close to impossible, but above 45 is like regular water temperature for most places. That brings us to number 3. Well, not really, kind of, but number 3. If it's raining, fish aren't going to bite. I can tell you firsthand that this is wrong. People are probably like, oh, it's raining, I'm not going to go fishing. Well, if it's raining, I mean, I've been fishing before, and then it started raining, and I was like, oh, crap. But I kept fishing, and I still caught fish even through the rain. In fact, there have been times where I've caught fish better in the rain. I don't know what it is, if it's nothing, if it's just coincidence, but rain doesn't really affect fishing. Now, wind, this is just kind of a side tip. Wind can suck, especially if you're fishing topwaters or bobbers. Wind can also really suck when you're casting because, if you cast into the wind or anything, it can screw up your casting. And so when you're trying to pitch to stuff, it may become very difficult because, of the wind. But that's another story. But yes, the rain doesn't exactly mess anything up. Number 2. Number 2 has just left me. Hold on a second. Oh, yes. So number 2 is, I decided to throw in an obvious one in there because I feel like there's some Yankees out there that are probably thinking this. A lot of really old people, like your great-grandparents or some of your really old fishermen will say this, and I've actually heard people say this. You can't catch a fish off of anything except live bait. A lot of your older folks, your people that are, they've been around, they're like, oh, don't try fishing with those fancy lures, you're not going to catch anything. Use worms. You know, use minnows, use chicken liver, but don't use anything fake. Most of us can agree that that's crap. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I just wanted to throw that in there because there are people that think that, and there's lots of little kids that think that. Little kids that are like, oh yeah, well, little kids that are always like, well, my dad said that you have to use worms. Well, you know that's also kind of common. Number one, probably one of the biggest misconceptions I've ever heard of in fishing, like history. And that is, when you're fishing with a bobber, if you don't leave it still for long periods of time, you're not going to catch anything. Well, guess what? Bullcrap. I don't really know about studies, but what I've seen a lot firsthand is if you actually move your bobber every 2 to 3 seconds, a couple of inches, like if you throw your bob, like this is like for bluegill or crappie fishing. If you throw your bobber out there, your line, and your worm or your minnow, especially worms, if you move it 6 inches or so every couple of minutes, it'll actually help, because if the certain area that you cast it in didn't have any fish in it, but if you keep moving and eventually you come to a pocket of bluegill or some crappie, you're gonna cover this bigger area of ground per cast. So, large misconception, very, very large misconception. People are always like, well, you don't leave your bobber still, you're never going to catch nothing. Well, I guess they're wrong. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope this video made you think, if you were like, oh, I've never thought about that before. Anyway, I want you to go down in the comments and ask me a question, because I'm going to be doing a question, like a questions and answers video. The question can be anything, really. If you want to go to Facebook and find me on Facebook at Curtis Bell, you can also ask me questions there. I'm not on Instagram right now, just personal reasons. I'm off Instagram, probably going to be off for a while, so just don't ask me anything on Instagram, but go to Facebook and ask me questions on Facebook. But anyway, the questions can be a personal question about me. They can be fishing questions or hunting questions or anything outdoor, survival, anything related, or they can be anything you can think of. So, bye.